People who can bring you in, if it isn't your parents who can bring you in, are often other students. In languages, we see a lot of a kind of academic chain migration. We will have one student who comes from Latin America. That person will have a good experience. They'll tell their friends. I've counted as many as 6 links out of one student coming and then inviting the next, and then that person had someone else come. So I think we need to do a better job of asking our current students, particularly from underrepresented groups, who else do you know that you could invite to campus, that we should talk to, or that we should call up and ask to come to graduate school? Because we've got somebody to be a ready guide and source of testimonial for what we're saying, because that student is here. So we can help get more people on that path forward. And then finally, it's come to me to talk to 2 of our colleges about the fact that the moving walkway that used to bring local students to them, particularly teachers and people in business, for whom the radius of possible schools was how far they're willing to drive in the evening, suddenly expanded a whole lot with the growing acceptance of online and particularly online for-profit programs. So that colleagues at schools that used to, or colleges on my campus, who used to say, everyone knows we're here, and when they get ready to get a master's degree, they'll call. They won't necessarily call them anymore. But at that same time, I think we have opportunities to focus more clearly on our core mission. And I think departments and schools that might have been less motivated than they should to actually take the concrete actions that will bring in students from underrepresented groups. I think every one of my colleagues wants more students from underrepresented groups, but we're all very busy. And so making the point that the students whom you've counted on for a long time are not necessarily just motorized on that pathway, it's going to be an important way to motivate them to look at some other actions. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. And so our next speaker is Dr. Martina Munsters, Deputy Dean of Students at University of Chicago.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here today to speak with you about the issues that were raised in the report. These issues really resonate on my campus, and we're a campus of about 15,000 students, of which 10,000 are graduate students, but we have no graduate school. Now, Deputy Provost actually wanted to be here today, could not make it. So, because we have no graduate school, there's no graduate dean, there's no deputy graduate dean. So, while she coordinates as the Deputy Provost on the academic issues across our campus, the role that I play out of student affairs is to coordinate the other component of student life across our academic unit. So I was the most likely equivalent on my campus, given you have no graduate school. But it's my pleasure to be here, and I work very closely on a lot of issues for our graduate students, whether it's somebody who is getting a social science degree or whether somebody's getting a law degree. And we've now for a couple of years been very concerned about the funding of our graduate students. We wonder what's the appropriate length of a time to complete a degree. We think about how to identify, attract, and retain our students, and how to prepare them for their future careers, whether that is in academia or whether it's outside of academia. And over the last few years, committees have been formed to think about these questions and to make recommendations. And we've had many, many conversations with our graduate students about their experience as a student on our campus. And at the heart of the efforts that we are working on to improve graduate education is an understanding that the changing of the culture of graduate education, which includes these questions about the expectation of how long it should take to complete a degree, is really very challenging, but also critically necessary. And while we're asking these questions, we're also asking ourselves a set of other questions about how to improve the overall experience. So it's not just about the academic component, but it's the other experience that our students are having. Because our expectation is that if we improve in the other areas as well, such as how do we build community among our graduate students? What is the role of graduate housing within that? What is the programming that these students need? Do we need a graduate center or not? What do we need to do with regard to ESL programs? What do we need to do with regard to disability services for our students? That when we improve in these areas, it will have a positive impact on our ability to attract students to our campus, on improving our retention, reducing our time to degree, and to help our students to identify what their future path really is. Based on the work that these committees have been doing and the conversation we've had with students, we've embarked on a couple of different initiatives. Almost the easiest initiative is the one that is a significant financial investment to support the graduate students at every level throughout their education. And I say it's almost the easiest one because it is a decision that can be made at a high provincial level and then get implemented. Some of the other things I will talk about are much more complicated because it means lots of change behavior on our faculty side, and that takes lots of conversation and a long time to accomplish. So the financial investments we've been working on the last couple of years was 3 years ago a major commitment from our president to make sure that all our students in their first 5 years of studies had tuition remission, had stipends, which is now $20,000 a year, which I know for your school, it's what we provide is really quite extraordinary. And I know I'm speaking here as truly as an Ivy school, in a school that's working in a public setting where I know the stress on your budget is even worse than we can even imagine at the University of Chicago. But we've kept tuition rates flat for students who continue on beyond their 5th year. We've increased our teaching remuneration for our graduate students, and we have significantly increased summer and dissertation fellowships. So during this economic difficulty, really our commitment to our graduate students' financial support is one of the most significant investments we've made. And we therefore also applaud wholeheartedly the recommendations in the report, the path forward, that the federal government should continue and expand fellowship and trainee programs. And of course, we therefore also very much worry about the potential that fellowships such as the GAN and the JAVITs may actually not continue because they're important funding sources for our students. But while we recognize that funding is a significant major contributing factor to our ability of our graduate students to complete the degree, we know that there are these other factors that affect retention as well. So in 2008, our provost asked a committee of faculty and students to explore and make recommendations to help students complete the degrees in a reasonable length of time. Because they felt that the question is important because the amount of time it takes to complete the degree will have impact on their satisfaction. It will have impact on our ability to recruit the best students, and it will also affect the students' jobs prospects afterwards. We've also, of course, looked at studies that indicate that those students who finish their degrees more quickly are much more likely to secure latter faculty positions at other institutions. And of course, the shorter their time to degree is, makes it easier for them to find the funding to support their education. The committee, however, noted that while at the University of Chicago, we pride ourselves on the training of our graduate students, and that maintaining that tradition really is a top priority, and that there should be no interference, certainly from the central administration, as they see us, in the training processes of our students. But the committees did recognize that some students do take longer than is necessary because they may have failed to develop effective work strategies, that they may receive poor academic advising and mentoring, and that students may lose precious times because they take on jobs to make their ends meet. So to address these non-funding factors, we are expanding the number and the type of workshops that support our graduate students' progress and academic networking skills. And these are workshops that include financial planning, time management, workload strategies, and what we call write-ins at our school for students at the proposal writing and dissertation stage. And the latter are week-long programs where students come every day to simply sit down and write between 9 and 5. We provide the cookies and the juice and some staff member.